Corbett National Park is India's oldest and best-known tiger reserve. It is where Project Tiger was launched way back in 1973. This is our third trip to a park we love so much. But what makes the park so special? Why has this part of India seen a greater increase in tiger numbers than anywhere else between 2018 to 2022? Who is Jim Corbett, the man the park was named in honour of? So much to see, learn and discover during this trip. So where exactly is Corbett National Park? It's located in India, in the north of India. It's a 5.5-hour drive from Delhi to Ramnaga across the plains of India. Ramnaga is where we meet our guides.
Well, we're leaving the hotel at 6 a.m. For the long drive to Corbett. Short night's sleep, 5 hours, not really enough. Didn't pick up the glitch in the planning in the UK. But anyway, hey ho, lots of good things.
After a couple of hours, we stopped for a good cup of masala chai.
Really nice, isn't it?
And then back on board as we continue our journey from Delhi to Ramnaga. We arrive at Ramnaga where we meet our guides.
So the driver told you we've been sitting in a very good dabas, drinking cups of tea with our feet up. There were 2 crashes. Wow. Somebody's gone off into the bushes down here. And everyone's watching. Oh, there's one on that side too. There's one this side and that side. 2. But one big crash and a lorry broken down, big jam in Delhi.
That's why you are late.
This
is Rahman.
Raymond.
Your naturalist and Prakash Dolby. He is your one of the naturalists.
Hi, Prakash.
Hello, sir. It will take like 20 minutes to reach over there.
Yeah, let's go.
Then we
Let's
do
go.
entry over there, and then you can go for washroom, and also we can have lunch inside because maybe a bit late.
I don't think we want lunch.
Who read? You okay? This is Rahman. Hi. Nice to all. You are the leader.
Yeah. No.
Who's the leader? Who's the boss? You the boss. Yes.
No, he's with them. One guide each.
I do remember this bit.
From Ramnaga, we drive 30 minutes until we get to Dhikala Gate and Museum, which is the entrance to the park. And Corbett National Park is here on the left.
Prakash, is this the buffer zone here?
Yes, this is the buffer zone.
Is this the entrance to Corbett? And I think there's a little bust of Jim Corbett on the left-hand side.
Yes.
And a little museum. That's it, absolutely. Oh, they've got a gate now, an electric fence.
Gate.
Electric fence.
Yeah, solar power fence.
Wow.
Solar power.
Solar
Wow.
power electric fence.
Yeah.
Solar powered electric fence. Wow.
Can you take some pictures? Home view?
Fantastic.
Jim Corbett.
That's the man.
So now need your passport.
Jim Corbett, 1875 to 1955. They've given him quite a nice little hut, actually. Hello.
While our entry is being processed by the park officials, we have a chance for a quick look around.
This has all changed a bit since last time. The Corbett Interpretation Centre is in front of us. Hornbill up here, looking quite resplendent. And a boat. I'm not quite sure what the boat's here for. Hamilton jet boat. It's one of the 3 boats used by Sir Edmund Hillary, first mountaineer to scale Mount Everest, patrol the Kalgar Reservoir area enclosed within the Corbett National Park, anti-poaching activities. Okay. Until India realizes that wildlife is an asset, the killing will go on. Country's fauna is a sacred trust, and I appeal to you not to betray your trust. Jim Corbett. What a great acknowledgement. What is that one here? It's all written. It's not in any.
Let me check. Please come with me. This is the list of man and human being killed by tiger.
Okay, people who died from tigers.
Yes.
And are they guides or are they villagers?
Mix.
Mixed. Okay.
So officially, unofficially, it's more than 31.
Yeah.
Sadly, our time here was all too brief, but we touched a number of important pillars that make up Corbett National Park: the anti-poaching patrol boat, those who have lost their lives to tigers, and the man himself and his plea for India's sacred fauna, which we'll talk a bit more about.
More journey starts now.
Yeah, it start now. But
Okay.
if you mostly the deer, spotted deer, samba deer, barking deer, sometimes elephant. But luckily crossing the tiger. But if you want to stop in any place, you can call me. We will stop there.
Okay.
After checking into Dangahi Gate Museum, we drive up this valley here all the way up to Dhikala, which is where we're going to stay in the very centre of Corbett National Park. We can in fact see the grasslands and all the forests around here on Google Maps.
First welcome bird in peacock, the
Yeah,
national
okay.
bird
You can keep going.
behind the bird.
Okay, thank you.
It takes over an hour to drive to Dhikala Forest Lodge, where we'll be staying for the next 3 nights. It is some 30 kilometres from Dangadi Gate. This drive has to be ranked amongst the world's most iconic drives into any game park. We pass through dense sal forest and we follow the Ramnaga River, a river that Corbett himself would have known well. So who was Jim Corbett? As already mentioned, he was born some 150 years ago in 1875. He was his mother's 12th child. His birthplace and where he grew up is a short distance from Corbett, a little to the east, a place called Nainital, a place we'll also visit during this trip.
That's the serpent eagle. That.
Where is it?
That. Look at the middle of
Serpent eagle?
here. The middle you can check here.
Yeah, there he is. Oh, yeah.
There are a number of parts that make up Jim Corbett. As we drive to Dhikala Forest Lodge, I want to arm you with some knowledge about this fascinating man.
Yes, sir.
First of all was his love of India and its people. He was the second generation of his family born and raised in India, being from a domiciled family as opposed to being born and raised in Britain. He was for all intensive purposes a second generation Indian, albeit of a different colour. From his ayah or nanny and the other household servants, he learned to speak at least 2 local languages as well as being fluent in Hindi. He grew up knowing the local tribal etiquette, religion and superstitions. It was said that he was more sympathetic to Hinduism than ever he was to Christianity. He bought a derelict village and gave it to the poor of the area. That was in 1915, when he was about 40 years of age. It's another place we'll visit during this trip.
The largest deer of deer family.
Largest of the deer family.
Yes.
Okay.
Both are
Females.
In 1952, 3 years before he died, he published My India, which was a book about the ordinary people with whom he lived his life. In the introduction he writes, "It is of these people who are admittedly poor and who are often described as India's starving millions, among whom I have lived and whom I love, that I shall endeavour to tell in the pages of this book, which I humbly dedicate to my friends, the poor of India." He took upon himself the role of supporter of the underdog. He defended not just the underdog Indians, but also the underdog that was the region he lived in, Kumaon. He loved India and the Indians with a passion that was never dampened. The second part that made up Jim Corbett was his incredible knowledge of wildlife. It was this exceptional knowledge that equipped him when he went to hunt the man-eating tigers and leopards. He was able to take them on in their own surroundings in the jungle they lived in on equal footing. From an early age, Jim was fascinated by the forest and wildlife around his summer home at Nainital and the winter home of Kalahungi. It was in these forests that he learned to identify the animals and birds by their calls. From listening to the calls, he was able to understand what was going on in the jungle. He became a good tracker and hunter. His jungle guru was Kunwar Singh. Kunwar was a hunter and the head man of the nearby village of Chandi Chok. He assisted Jim by being his teacher and guide. He was someone Jim would go to for advice. We have to remember that Jim grew up in the late 1800s, when hunting, shooting, fishing were acceptable pastimes at every level of society, from royalty to maharajas, viceroys, army officers taking part in massive shoots at which up to 36 tigers would be shot in one day. It did not occur to anyone that this heavy slaughter would diminish the wildlife. The view was as soon as one tiger was killed, another moved in. Wildlife seemed to be universally abundant. Jim started to realize that the land, trees and wildlife were being exploited without the regard to the future. He became a fierce preserver of the natural world, on one occasion literally fighting with his fists on behalf of beleaguered tigers, cheetal and areas of virgin forest. Jim was very critical of deforestation policies that took native trees for financial gain and were not replaced. He started a campaign of writing to national newspapers expressing his indignation over deforestation and overshooting. We owe him a great debt for waking everyone up.
They say, you look at me, I'll look at you. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. All females. Oh, 5. Oh, there's a male there. Oh, yeah.
Two with the beard.
Yeah.
With beard, male.
What was Jim Corbett's part in Corbett National Park? The river to our right as we drive into Dhikala is the Ramnaga. It was his favourite fishing river. It was also where he shot a man-eater in 1932 when he was 57 years of age. Not only was the fishing good, so was the scenery and the wildlife. The forests were largely intact, and the restrictions prevented any further damage. It was on one of these fishing trips that Jim Corbett, aided and abetted by forest officers, that he worked on persuading the Governor of United Provinces, Sir Malcolm Haley, to set up this area as a wildlife preserve.
Inside the Ramnaga, the wildlife is a lot of crocodile, gharial, otter, catfish, mahasi.
Lots of things. Beautiful.
It was a totally new concept, the idea that the area should be kept free of human interference so that tigers might breed and then used to restock other parts of India, where it was noticed that tigers had become thinner on the ground. The idea of restocking was on a similar principle as restocking rivers with fish. The next year, 1935, the United Provinces National Parks Bill approved the reserve, and it was named after the governor, Haley National Park. After independence, it was changed to Ramnaga National Park. A year after Jim Corbett's death in 1956, it was renamed Corbett National Park in honor of Jim. Jim Corbett's probably best known for the man-eating tigers and leopards he hunted and killed. One estimate is that these had killed over 1,200 people. At the entrance gate, we saw a list of those people who had died locally from tigers around Corbett National Park. And we tourists often don't take this into account when we travel into an area what it is like for the locals, and we'll hear a bit more about that later.
Yeah, there is a owl. Yeah.
Oh.
There's an owl.
Can you see the hole? First you see the middle plant,
Yeah.
and then you can check the hole.
Yeah.
Under the hole, the tawny fish owl is sitting there.
Okay.
Now Dhikala is not so far, 15-20 minutes more. Not far, 15-20 minutes more. 20 minutes. 15-20 minutes more.
As a 12-year-old boy growing up in Kenya, I read his books about the man-eating leopard of Rudraprayag and the man-eaters of Kumaon. It was he who introduced me to the fascination that is India, its wildlife and his huge respect for the people of India. I've read his books many, many times throughout my life. Jim undertook to hunt a man-eater only once two conditions were met. First, the reward that was being offered for the destruction of the man-eater should be removed. The second, no one else was allowed to hunt at the same time as he was. He didn't want to be shot by a fellow hunter. It was his man-eating exploits that made people aware of Jim Corbett, shooting the man-eaters that other hunters were unable to. When he wrote his account in books, this raised people's awareness on the world stage, and hence the Jim Corbett we know.
Version of the Indian owl.
We arrive at Dhikala, where we undergo the thorough check-in process, find our rooms, and then head out for what remains of the afternoon drive. What we'll be able to see? Will we find a tiger?
I'm coming. Okay. I'm coming.
Off we go for our first drive, and what's the time now? About 5 o'clock?
God, it's about 3, I would say.
No, it's later than that.
Oh, 4:38.
4:38. After unpacking, registering.
6:10 back here. 6:10.
Yeah.
Okay.
Driving all the way from Delhi, 2 crashes.
Corbett, and in particular around Dhikala, has some of the best natural grasslands you'll find in India.
Oh, a peacock.
As we've seen in other tiger reserves we've visited on this trip, village or human settlements have been relocated out of the core areas, which have affected the grasslands. This has never happened to Corbett, and this grassland, thanks to the actions of Jim Corbett, as we've just heard. Having registered into Dhikala Lodge, we then drive out the gate here along this direction. We actually spend the evening looking in this area here for the tiger or the tigers. And this is where we spend quite a lot of time looking at the elephant in the fantastic evening light.
Very far the island, on the island there lot of crocodiles. Grassland.
Yeah.
This area is 3-4 tiger movement in grassland area. Yeah. So mostly the daylight time the hiding in the middle of the grass.
Yeah.
And the best time is the early morning, the late evening.
Yeah.
Sometimes during the day.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's a very good sighting of the walk a very openly area.
Yeah.
Yeah. But mostly we can try in this place.
Yeah.
It's interesting to observe how the strategies of the tourist guides evolve from one trip to the next. The focus is always based around the potential best locations to find a tiger for their clients. We haven't seen tigers in grasslands before, so this will be very interesting.
Good hunting place.
Good hunting place. Not enough grass for the tiger to hide.
Tiger hide in that side.
Yeah.
Sometimes looking the deer.
Yeah.
Feeding in night time. They can hunt. And this is the behind the cheetal. And the black one.
In the dark ones.
Yeah, dark one. These are all are hog deer.
Okay. The smaller.
Yes.
Beautiful light.
Lots of them here.
Oh, they're running, look.
Yeah, ma'am.
Prakash mentioned there were 3 or 4 tigers occupying these grasslands. We can see there is a good number of tiger prey here, cheetal and hog deer. This in turn determines the high number of tigers. There are high expectations that one of these tigers will show itself. We understand an alarm call was heard here. So the jeeps gradually move on one by one to a possible new location.
There's a herd of elephants.
Here is understand the elephant is not harmful.
Yes. Harmful.
Not harmful. Not harmful.
Not harmful.
They understand. All are still. No reaction.
Oh, you're all the animals. Yeah, yeah. They don't see the elephant as a threat.
This elephant.
This is a communication code.
That's a communication call. Is it? Yeah.
The action, just call, go there.
She went there.
Come to me.
Yeah, come to me.
It's the matriarch, is it?
She's maybe matriarch. The one in the group is
Elephants are highly intelligent, existing in stable social groups of around 20 closely related females. The oldest female leads the group, using a variety of sounds, both low and high-pitched, to communicate. Elephants display a wide variety of emotions, including joy and grief.
all have turned back to the sea.
The 2 previous occasions we visited Corbett was in early February, some 7 weeks earlier in the year. It was much cooler then, and we saw no elephants. At the end of March, we were seeing plenty of elephants.
All the cars that come along here. The anticipation is for the tiger to cut through the grass in this direction.
Because it is eating snake, but only scared by raptor, birds of prey, and tiger.
So it could be the two peacocks giving the alarm for the tiger.
What is lovely about this scene is if we turn our head slightly towards the setting sun, we see the enchanted display of flying ants with our herd of elephants. Why do flying ants appear? It's all about reproduction. As with honeybees, ants live in colonies with a queen laying eggs, surrounded by worker ants doing all the work. When conditions are right, the queen ant lays eggs producing virgin queens and males. They grow wings and emerge from their anthills or nests. This is timed to coincide with other ant colonies to maximize the chance of mating between the different colonies and reduce the inbreeding. This also gives them protection from predators, as there is safety in numbers. They provide food at this time to many birds. The young queen will mate with several males. Once she is mated, the role of the male is over. The stock of sperm the queen receives will last her whole lifetime laying eggs. The mated queen discards her wings and starts looking for a suitable site to set up a new colony. The queen lives usually for up to 15 years. The male ants usually only live for a day or two. Their sole reason for existence is to mate with queens.
So tomorrow morning we will get tigers in this place.
Well, maybe not tonight. So now where we go? Where are we going back?
Then after 5 minutes.
Safari. And
That was a quick one for us, eh?
that's a short one. And everyone's staying the night here. Bus.